Well, hello everyone. Welcome once again to Turkey. We are in Konya, and we will be leaving Konya today to take a long drive down to the coast. But as we're here, we're approaching probably the only church that is left here in the city of Konya. This is a little Catholic church, and if we wanted to go in, we'd have to get the keys, because we understand it now that there are no Christians that are living in the city of Konya today, so the church evidently is not much in use.
Yeah, I find that so sad when I think of all of the journeys of St. Paul and all of the evangelists that did preach Christianity, and then to find that there is nothing left. It's
just
very,
that
very
one little
sad.
church. Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
yeah.
Well, you know, Konya was originally called Iconium, or the city of icons, and it's over 10,000 years of history. It was founded in 7,500 BC. That's a long time ago.
But you know, we do read about Iconium in the gospel, in the Acts of the Apostles.
Right.
That name rings a bell. So anybody that has that in Bible study, they would know about it.
Well, it's always been a city of with a lot, you know, as far as religion is concerned. I mean, you had the Greeks and the Romans that were there, and evidently with the temples that the Greeks and the Romans had, they had a lot of icons, thereby getting the name of the city Iconium.
Iconium.
How about that, huh? And even today, it's a very conservative religious community, as it was. We're just leaving right now, and I found out that there was, I believe, over, Betty, 1 million people that live there, but you don't see much in the way of skyscrapers. The whole town seems to be pretty much spread out, you know, in a lot of areas. It reminds you of Los Angeles.
Well,
some way. You see the smog?
I was going to say, we even have the smog there, but you can't visualize that many people. But it's a large area.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and they sort of live in communities, so we didn't go to where all of that community type living would be.
This, incidentally, this area that we're traveling through now, it looks a little desolate, as it were.
Yeah.
But years and years ago, I guess several thousands of years ago, this was all a forest.
Can't believe that.
And it was, I know, it doesn't look anything like a forest that had been here, but you can see there's a lot of signs of erosion that's in this area. But as we go down through this area, we're noticing that there are a lot of pine trees that have been planted. Now, the pine trees are naturally to reforest that area. And it's interesting to note too that it's a lot of organizations, maybe a company or a plant or some sort of a service organization will go in and they'll plant something like maybe 10,000 pine trees, and they take care of that too.
Like the Rotary does here. Or we also have another tree organization. Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Yeah.
But
so
Marv,
it's a great thing, and
Sure.
it's good to see that they're doing that, because that erosion is just going to continue to take its toll. You know.
I would think pine would have been a good choice as long as they have enough water, because when the pine cones drop off the trees and the little pine nuts, as the pine cone expands, the nuts come out and they will reforest themselves.
Yeah. And I guess will probably happen. I don't know how many thousands of years that will take, but anyway. Also, speaking about trees, as we are, we're going to notice as we go along that there are a lot of poplar trees. You can see some over here now on the left-hand side. And it's interesting to note that instead of putting up fences or putting up some sort of markers to designate, well, that's Betty's plot of land over here and this is Marv's plot of land over here, what they'll do is they'll plant 1 or 2 rows of these poplar trees, and that will be your boundary, or that will be your fence.
Very clever. It's very popular over there.
I wish I would have thought of that. The other thing
you can use it next time.
Okay, very good. The other thing is, too, is that when a child is born, usually then the family will go out and, there was a sign right there that we just passed, and that was some organization that was taking care of that plot of land. And I think this, Betty, is another caravanserai over here.
Right over there.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was explaining was that when a child is born, then a stand of trees like these trees that you see right here will be planted.
I'm glad you said a stand and not a tree for each child. I was going to say, oh my goodness, they have a big population.
Well, it could be, because big families as well. Anyway, the trees are planted, and then when the child becomes an adult and becomes married, some of those trees are chopped down, because in the Middle East, you will find that a lot of the families live together. You may have 3 or 4 generations all living under one roof. And so when you get married and you're going to bring your wife home, you need to add on to the family house. So they chop some of those trees and use that for some of the construction. That is a little well right there that we see. Boom, we got it frozen for just a moment. That's how some of the water was drawn in that particular area. Take your bucket and
now
pick
that
it up
would
that
be,
way.
of course, hand done.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It looked like it. I would have thought it was probably an oil well because that's what we see those grasshoppers, out in the fields by Bakersfield.
Yeah, well, yes, I don't know about
That's
that.
enough of that.
Okay, anyway, we stopped here because this is where you get your pots.
Our what?
Now, what are you going to
We
say
get
about
your
that
what?
one? Your pots. I made
Not
that
a word.
plural.
Not a
Okay.
word. Not a word.
There were some beautiful ones too. I
It's
don't
too
know how
bad-
you get those home though.
No, you couldn't get them home. That's the problem. Here we go. Look at the. Tell me, what is that?
It says
Yes.
no passing, I think. I'm
You
not
did that
sure.
on purpose so we'd go by fast.
Right. Getting back to the pine trees, there have been 5 million new pine trees that were planted. And again, that's to stop the erosion there. But here we're getting into a little more of a farming area here. And we can see there on the left-hand side, as you see right there, there is I guess it's not an irrigation canal or a ditch because it's all done with cement pipe, but that's where the water is going through. And so this land is irrigated out here. And we did, on this particular trip from Konya down to Antalya, we passed several big lakes. In fact, we're going to stop and have lunch on the side of one of them. But you could see that there must be a lot of water that is being pumped, either probably groundwater, I suspect, there to water the crops.
Marvis, if you look at the terrain, almost every place you go, you say, "Oh, this could be California," or "This could be certain areas," because there are so many similarities wherever we go.
Yeah, it just shows you how much of the world is actually the same, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to continue on down the road because we've got about 280 miles to cover today.
It was a long trip.
It was a long trip, but it was a good one.
But it's good because there are always things to see along the way, and we do make lots of stops.
Yeah, and we're going to stop at a very interesting town on our way to have lunch. And then I actually stopped a little bit later on at another place on another lake, which was absolutely gorgeous, for a little refreshment at that point.
This terrain is kind of like snooze time.
Yeah, yes, you could. Well, it's a good time to catch up on your nap time, They do grow wheat and barley and sunflowers and sugar beets in this particular area. Now, this is all known, if I remember correctly, Betty, as the Plain of Antalya, and that stretches from Konya all the way, I guess, right on down to, or close to the coast. It couldn't be all the plain because we're getting into some mountain areas here as well. And of course, you can see here how some of the people live in some of the villages here. And oh, Betty, this was exciting because I hadn't seen apples piled up like that before.
It looked like that they were garbage, but they weren't. I mean, they pick them and then they just dump them on the side of the road.
Yeah, that they were going to get rid of them just because they were on their side.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think they were there so that
they were pickup.
Yeah,
they came by and picked them up and took them to market.
Right. So, and of course, the time of year that we were here in Turkey is the time of year that you would be harvesting apples. And look we just went. There were lots and lots of apples grown in this particular area. And off on our right-hand side, we're going to pass another lake here that you can't see, but I assure you it's there. Now, there's your pickup guy.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going down there.
But you see, they have tractors to do it.
Yep.
So
so he's pulling his wagon there. Oh, here comes one of the lakes. These lakes were really beautiful.
Beautiful color. The water was so nice and blue.
It was. The whole time that we were there, except on the coast, there was kind of a haze in the air, and I guess that's simply because of the time of year. It was, it was getting on toward winter time. I mean, we were hitting autumn and getting into winter time. So
but they suffer from pollution just like everybody else does. There are a lot of cars in the metropolitan areas, and that kind of has a tendency to move off into the other areas too.
Yeah, I think you're right.
A shame.
I think you're right. Yeah, so you can't get away from that anywhere in the world, I think, today. I think every city that we've traveled to, every major city, every major country that we've been in, we've seen evidences of a lot of pollution. We stopped here just for a little bit because the colors were changing, of course, at this time of year, and you can see there's some of the trees that have the change that's already taking place. And again, there's more pine trees there in the distance.
That's
now,
beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to head over to that town that you see way across the lake over there, and that's where we're going to have our lunch this afternoon. But this was nice because we had seen so much of the flat area and so much of the dry area, and now we're getting into the area which is a lot greener, into the mountain areas, and there are some fairly majestic mountains, as you can see right here, as the town is right there on the edge of the mountains, and also on the edge of this beautiful lake.
Civilization. Well, it is now, after miles and miles and miles of nothing, and then here it's fun to come upon a town.
And this was a town where we were going to have lunch, and you can see the name of the town right here on the little sign as we come around the corner, and that is Esparta. I believe that's pronounced correctly.
Oh, you're so smart, Mark. Yes, that's right.
On the left-hand side over here is an old building that was a school of theology at one time, and I believe it may still be a mosque today. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, this was one of the old buildings that was in the city, and so that's where we had our stop for lunch. Now, we stopped, and now we're going to leave because it's time for us to keep going, and we're heading up the hill.
You're not with me. We are strong, brave, and ready.
Well, as Mehmet, our guide, said, the words out there say strong, brave, and ready. And
that's us, too.
That's us, right. And we're next to, what is this, Betty? A commando camp, right?
Commando camp,
military camp, yeah. And this was up above the town there where we had stopped for lunch.
Certainly, it's certainly isolated, and it's
look at the building, look at the view from there.
Yeah, but it was impenenetrable. All the fences around it.
Oh,
well, I guess you would.
Yeah, around a military base.
Sure,
I guess so.
Sure.
Well, now we can see more of the trees here, and also you can see too on top of that one mountain. There's a little bit of snow up there, and I would imagine during the wintertime some of this area gets pretty cold.
I would guess. I think that we picked a wonderful month to go.
Oh, we did.
Really.
We're going to do this again, right?
Yes, I hope we'll do it next year again. Marva had a lot of telephone calls from people of Armenian not extract, what do you call it?
Heritage.
Armenian ancestry.
Lineage. Or ancestry.
Ancestry is better.
Okay.
And they have been following this and going back to their roots, and they find it so interesting, and we have to be careful that we have our historical facts right.
There's so much history here.
Oh,
you
yes.
know, it would be very easy to get confused. I mean, when you have one civilization on top of another one.
Yeah.
Look, here's a marble quarry that we're going past. Yeah, I mean, if you figure just in Iconia alone, or Konya rather, 10,000 years of history. So you could get a little confused on
Sure
that.
Could.
But I'll tell you, Mehmet, our guide, was not confused. This man was just a wealth of knowledge. Oh,
so
fantastic. Really
I thought
fantastic.
So too.
Well, now we're getting up into a higher area
yeah.
because we're going to, after this, we'll be dropping down into the coastal area. But we're going to go through a place here. Betty's going to close her eyes because she doesn't like to go through tunnels.
I don't. It gives me a weird feeling. I don't like that closed-in feeling. It's scary.
Are you claustrophobic?
No, I'm really not. But I don't like tunnels. I always think, oh, my God, what would happen if they collapsed?
You wouldn't know it.
No, I suppose not.
If you were inside, you probably wouldn't know it. Well, I'll tell you what. Close your eyes again, Betty, because we're going to go through another one here.
Well, I like to see it as you go into it, to see the engineering that has taken place. But then after that, forget it. I want to fly over it.
Well, unfortunately, this time you're going to fly under it.
Yeah, the bus does not have wings.
No, afraid not. But, is that a bird?
If it's a bird, you will have recognized
probably
it.
so.
Anything that's a bird.
Anyway, we're still up in the mountains here, and this is a place where we stop for our little refreshment in the middle of the afternoon. And this lake, look at it, it's just like a mirror, isn't it? So tranquil, so peaceful, and it was absolutely beautiful up here, just really, really beautiful.
The contrast is so great, isn't it? We go for miles and miles and miles of plains, nothing, and then come into this beautiful type of scenery.
It was very, very nice. And Monsignor there is trying to get a picture, and we all did. We all took a lot of pictures here because this was a really magnificent place. And I know I've overused those words. Yes, but it still is. It's magnificent.
I don't take pictures. I look at other people's pictures.
Well, that way then you can enjoy it 2 times. You can enjoy the whole thing.
Oh, I laugh
one
at
time and then
Doctor.
again.
He had the time with his cam recorder, and he called me up and he says, Betty, I don't know where I am. You have to identify as you go along, but he was a joy to have with us.
Well, we have now arrived on the coast, and this is taken off the balcony of my room in Antalya, and this is really beautiful. You said to me earlier that you thought that this was the Honolulu of Turkey?
Oh, that's what they say. It has the reputation of being the Honolulu of Turkey.
Well,
I can believe it.
I can believe it too. It's beautiful. And here we have the sea right out there in front. And right next door, they were going up with another hotel, and there's another hotel on the other side of us. And we were not right downtown. In fact, we're going to go downtown now, and it's quite some distance. And you can see an awful lot of building that's going on. And Betty, what I like too is look at the coloration here. You have the blue and sort of the pink. Really nice the way that some of these buildings are painted. But do you have any idea what the population is here?
Have no idea. Lots of people.
Lots of people. Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe by the next program we'll look that up and see exactly. I'm sorry I don't have that information because this is a very important city. It's a port city, and lots of big ships do come into Antalya. And we're going to head off to the museum here, which is really unbelievable, the things that they have in this particular museum. I mean, everything from the caveman days to the periods of the Romans and the Greeks, and also when the Byzantine era, when the Christians were in here. I mean, it's just marvelous to see. And I think you can talk about this as you're driving along in the bus, and you think, okay.
Yeah.
But now when you get into the museum, you can see, hey, these are the actual statues and the things and the paintings and the sarcophagi that were
was
used.
good.
Do you like that?
Oh, yeah. You did a
Sounds
great
impressive,
job on
huh?
that. Yeah.
I was going to say sarcophagus, but there were more than one.
Oh, that is so impressive, Marv. But you see, it brings it all to life. When I hear somebody saying this period and this period and this period, oh, yeah. But then when you actually can visualize it, this is what makes it really come to life for you.
It does. It really brings it into focus, and I think you need to do that. And on this program and the next program too, we're going to see some of the other areas of Antalya here, Hadrian's Wall, and some other places too. But we're going to head off toward that area now. Now we have to go through part of the little downtown area. I say little area to get on the street here, which does look sort of like the Hawaii, doesn't it? Here with all the palm trees, and of course on the other side of the street is the sea.
Reminded me a lot of Spain because it had a very wide median between the directions going north and south, and then with the trees and when they all get to really growth, then I guess in the spring and in the summertime it's gorgeous.
Oh, when the flowers all come out, sure it would be. Yeah, and I would imagine that probably the population swells a lot too, because I would think that an awful lot of people would come here for their holidays, and for their vacations.
Europeans come here a lot.
They do.
I
That's
think
very
we
true.
have just discovered it here in the United States because
It's been there for such a long time.
But like they asked me when I said we're going to go to Turkey, Betty, who wants to go to Turkey?
Oh, boy, I'll
But
tell
they
you.
found out why we want to go.
Exactly, and why we want to go back again. Okay, we're in the museum right now, and this was just sort of a little model of a Turkish village, how it may have looked several years ago. And we're going to have some explanation from our guide, Mehmet, on some of the things that they have found as far as life going way back to the caveman days. In fact, they have discovered some caves not too far from this particular area, and they've been doing a lot of excavation on those caves. And we have a lot of artifacts here in the Antalya Museum. So let's listen to a bit to Mehmet.
So we understand from such caves that our ancestors lived in the caves, but they led a communal life. So during daytime, with sunrise, they went out of this cave because there's a little opening. They just sort of, like in the underground city over there, they roll a stone into position, so even the wild animals living in the mountains could not go in there, to hide or to sleep. So inside, you see dark spots. That means they have some kind of, oil lamps that were used for illumination. And they started building their little homes made of sun-dried bricks. This is my room. Then this is his room. This is his room. And the very funny thing is when you have your apartment, for instance, between the two bedrooms, you have one common wall. You don't have two separate walls. But during that time, with the idea of possession and personal property, one builds his own room, and the other one builds his own room. Between the two rooms, they leave a passage, just wide enough for one or two people to get by, instead of combining these walls into one. It was personal property. Okay? And then the other thing is, they don't have the regular doors that we have used today to enter the building. The entrance is through the ceiling. They are in the plains, in the fields, but still afraid of wildlife, especially after darkness. So they only have, like you saw in the caravanserai, one tiny hole on the wall for the illumination, to get the natural light inside circulation well, but it's not low like the windows we have, it's way up very close to the ceiling. Straight ahead of you, you see a large picture over there, a colonnaded street. One line of columns on the right hand side, another one on the left hand side. In the background is a small mountain, table-shaped mountain. This is the ancient city of Perge, P-E-R-G-E or G-A, whichever way. And there was the Artemis Pergeia, meaning the chief deity. It is important to note that in ancient times, each city like that had at least one main god or goddess, like the divine protector or protectress of the city, of the rulers, and of the people. Then you have other temples dedicated to various gods and goddesses. And Perga, especially down in the south, having a school of sculpture. They produce some of these excellent masterpieces. Most of them are from the Roman times, 2nd, 3rd century. These earliest sculpture work, statues, are sculptured by the Greeks, long before. Then during Roman times, similar things are reproduced, mass production. For that reason, we are inclined to say that these are Roman copies. When I say Roman copy, it's not something made last night. No, it's the Romans who copied the original masterpieces during the Greek civilization, because first it was the Greeks, as I said to you, who gave this shape to such statues. Athena, and the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of war. So originally she is depicted like that in Greek times, and then a lot of copies are made, produced or sculptured during Roman times against the original features of the Greek one. Therefore, we are inclined to say Roman copy, but when you look down there, it says 2nd century. It's not made yesterday, it is still 1800 years old. So this is the whole of these gods and goddesses, and that is very unique. This is the one that St. Paul, of course, landed to start his missionary journeys, only 10 miles away from Antalya, as I mentioned to you. There was the Artemis, and then there was the School of Sculpture, and there was the facade of the theater, where there were a lot of these statues that are found here and there, and they brought them here to display. If you are interested, one sort of general shot back there, containing these statues, and then the names of the gods and goddesses
are listed underneath the statues to complete a sentence there. Yeah, these are magnificent. You know, Betty, you think that maybe St. Paul actually saw some of these statues when he was there?
Boggles the mind.
Doesn't it though?
Just boggles
and we
the
see
mind.
too that a lot of devastation happened because of various earthquakes that happened. As you can see right here, that was a result of one that they had, and then they pulled those statues out, of course, and brought those to the museum here. But this is something, and that is Hercules, I believe, a statue of him, and here is a little statue of the god of fertility.
A statue?
Yeah, we all sort of got a little chuckle out of this one. So anyway, there were some very amusing statues that were here as well, I guess we should say.
Now this is the kind of a museum I like.
The anchors and all that. I told you, especially being by the Mediterranean, we have the merchants and the pirates. This is a continuous battle between them. The merchants from the shores of Syria, cedar tree. The boats are made of cedar trees. And you only have them in Syria and here in Taurus Mountains, to make strong boats, about 40, 50 feet long. They are quite deep, by the way, because they are meant to carry goods, merchandise. So, I mean, I can easily say, like, even if I go on the main spine of the boat, you cannot see my head from outside. So you just imagine that way. If I call it like 2 meters, so that's about 6 foot or so, minimum depth. So on the spine and around the boat, you have these holes. And these amphoras are pointed, if you pay attention. So when they carry merchandise, sometimes liquid, like wine, oil, etc., but sometimes grains, wheat, etc., or corn, against the waves, because it's just one severe journey, of course. You never know which way the wind is going to blow, and the other wind is the pirates. So in order to stop, to prevent these amphoras from getting cracked and broken down.
Well, evidently, Betty, some of these ships that he was talking about must have sunk. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the relics or the amphoras there. Good thing that they did, and the ships must have held them pretty good because they didn't break.
They didn't break, but it's sad. I mean, you say pretty good, but some people lost their lives.
Well,
I know, but we have.
But
I know that's okay. That's okay. We didn't spend a whole lot of time here. Probably 45 minutes. Do you think, Marv?
Yeah, I think so. And it gave you a good taste of the things that we had been, talking about and listening about, and oh golly,
it was great. And so well identified that it put into perspective the things that we had heard and seen before.
That's right. And as we say, it does. It brings it right into focus. And so this was nice. It was a very, very nice museum. Unfortunately, again, though, my batteries ran out before there were some other displays that I didn't get a chance to get. But I want to go back next time. We'll do that.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, speaking of that, you've got a lot of trips that are coming up too, and you have your newsletter out, and we have brochures on most of the trips coming up. And so we do want to remind you that if you are interested in any of the trips that we've been talking about on the station, you should give Betty a call right away and get the information, because some of those trips will
going to have to be closed.
Yeah, that's right. They will have to be, and so it's important that you get your information. We get it out to you, and then you get back to us one way or the other. Now, here is an artist's conception of what some of this area must have looked like during the Greek and Roman times.
Imagine. I mean, that looks like it could be right now, huh?
No, I don't think you could build that today. You can reproduce that.
The knowledge,
oh, yeah.
the artistry.
Isn't that something? Yeah. We think as civilization goes on, that we become smarter and wiser, and we know how to do all these things technically. But I don't know. Sometimes I think we go a little bit backwards.
Now we're doing it with computers. I mean, everything is drawn.
Yeah, we're not doing it. The computers are doing it. Exactly.
For us. Of course, you have to be knowledgeable to feed the computer.
That's true. Well, it just shows that there's been a lot of knowledge gone on for an awful lot of time, many centuries.
I'm glad to see Christianity presented here.
Well, yeah, this would of course have been the Byzantinian era. Again, if you're interested in our trips, give Betty a call. There's her phone number. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.